Godzilla vs. Mothra sees the return of Godzilla's biggest enemy turned friend, Mothra. This time, they start out as enemies, but then become friends, as, to make a long story short, a ghost of both of their pasts named Batra shows up via meteorite to wreck shop. Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah was a financial success for Toho, and so they rushed the next one, Godzilla vs. Mothra, into production just mere months after the release of Godzilla versus King Ghidorah. Originally, this movie was supposed to be either two things, either a Ghidorah solo movie called Ghidorah's Counterattack, or a Mothra solo movie with just Mothra versus Batra. However, Toho thought neither pitch was particularly sexy, and so they completely ditched the Ghidorah idea and placed Godzilla firmly at the front and center of it, and had him face Mothra, only for them face Batra and team up. As of right now, this is the weakest of the Heisei Godzilla movies. This is not to say it is bad, but it's been a steady decline in quality. Not steep like Showa, but definitely noticeable. As I've talked about in these Heisei reviews, the effects and the stunt work in the movie are really impressive. The movies are really impressive. And that goes double for Godzilla vs. Mothra. There is an underwater sequence that honestly looks really cool, and I want to know how they filmed that and how they accomplished that. There was a similar scene a few minutes later where Mothra swims through the ocean, and the ocean is actually set on fire because the humans were firing a laser cannon at Mothra, and he had just swam through it. It was a stunning visual. When I saw Batra for the first time, I was like, oh crap, like, can't we just get Mothra? Like, why do we have to complicate things? But Batra was actually a pretty kick-ass kaiju. And Mothra always works better as a good guy anyway, so it was probably for the best. The humans are the anchor of the movie, as in it weighs the movie down quite a bit. There's a big prevailing theme throughout that Mothra slash Batra were sent here to Earth as punishment because we are consuming all of the natural resources. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh no, this is Godzilla versus Hedorah all over again. Thankfully, Batra was not a monster made up of literal sludge and shit, or schlit? Sludge. I'll figure something. I'll figure a creative name out. But thankfully, it's not Hedorah levels of what are we doing here. But the message of the movie is definitely more pronounced. They're steering away from more of the fantastical stuff and being like y'all, the Earth is dying. Like, what are we doing here? Not as over the top as in Godzilla versus Hedorah, but it's definitely noticeable. That's my point. There's one of the Japanese Prime Minister's staff in particular that really hits it home. And I was just sitting there like, all right, we get it. Can we just see Godzilla and Mothra now, please? Like, I don't need to be reminded of this every 5 seconds. And then there's the main character, the main human character, who basically is Indiana Jones because someone at Toho recently rented Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and said they had an idea. However, they watched the wrong Indiana Jones movie. They watched Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, took the whole Indy is pretty much bad at everything now, Indiana Jones, and supplanted that for Godzilla versus Mothra. He's behind on child support. He's basically a bad dad. It didn't work. Thankfully, it's not like a movie killer for me. It's just, I was just in there thinking to myself, why was this necessary? At the end of the day, though, I am going to give the movie a good rating. It is the weakest of the series, but it is fun in bursts, especially when Godzilla, Mothra, and Batra are on screen doing their thing. If it's just those three, the movie's golden. Everything else is subpar. It's not horrible, but it's not amazing either. It's just okay. Well, what did you all think of Godzilla vs. Mothra? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. And stay tuned for next week. We are going to be kicking things off next week and concluding the Heisei era with the return of Godzilla's biggest enemy that is not named Ghidorah. and it's an enemy that knows him so well that it's pretty much him in metal form. It's Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2.